Sign when you hear the word hypnosis. Maybe you picture someone swinging a pocket watch back and forth while another person slowly closes their eyes. Maybe you think of a stage show where someone starts talking like a chicken or forgets their own name because hypnosis snapped their fingers. Or maybe you wondered if hypnosis is real at all. Those images have shaped the way many people think about hypnosis, but they're also one of the biggest reasons people overlook a therapeutic approach that has decades of research behind it. As both a licensed professional counselor and a certified clinical hypnotherapist, I found that many people are curious about hypnosis, but hesitant because they don't know what's true and what's simply entertainment. Today, I want to separate science from myth, talk about what hypnotherapy actually is, how it works in therapy, what happens in the brain during hypnosis, what it can help with, and why so many people leave their first session saying, that wasn't what I expected. If you've ever been curious about hypnotherapy or wondered if it could help you, this episode is for you, and we're going to dive in and separate science and myth. Let's dive in. Everyone, and welcome back to the Lunar Counseling Podcast. I'm your host, Kiara Brown, an LPC, certified clinical hypnotherapist, certified EMDR therapist, and the owner of Lunar Counseling. Each week, we will explore different approaches in the mental health field while also making room for deeper emotional, physical, and sometimes spiritual aspects of healing. Whether you're here because you're looking for therapy for yourself, you're a fellow mental health therapist, or mental health professional in any form, or you're simply curious about how the brain works, I'm so glad you're here. So let's jump into today's episode. We are going to talk about what is hypnotherapy, how it works in the brain, who it works for, how a session goes, and so much more. We're going to dive into a lot of the things. So the biggest misconception that probably happens with hypnotherapy is people think it's mind control, but it's not. Hypnotherapy is not mind control. This is something that I will probably say numerous times on this episode. It is not mind control. Numerous movies, have convinced us that hypnosis is something that another person does to you, that somehow someone else gains control over your thoughts, or they can force you to reveal secrets or do something against your will. That is not how clinical hypnosis works. It is not. It is not what it's used for at all. So take out like the Now You See Me movies or any other movie with hypnosis out of your mind. It's not what clinical hypnosis is. And according to the American Psychological Association, hypnosis is a state of consciousness involving focused attention and reduced peripheral awareness characterized by an enhanced capacity for response to suggestion. So it's definitely a very clinical definition. So let's put it into some everyday language. So let's think about a time when you became completely absorbed in a really good book. You were driving and then you can't remember like the last 5 hours. Or even like if you were watching a movie that made you like laugh or cry that you didn't know. Those are all examples of your attention becoming narrowed because your brain naturally shifts into states of focused attention throughout the day. Happens all the time without us even realizing it. So clinical hypnosis uses that ability that we already naturally have, and we're being intentional and therapeutic about that application in sessions. So instead of your attention being poured toward a movie where you're in routine thoughts, your attention is gently guided inward within your body and within your inner thoughts. You become less attracted by everything happening around you and more aware of what's happening inside of you. So your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations within your body, your memories, your imagination. And that inward focus creates an opportunity for meaningful therapeutic work where we can really dive deeper and get to what's really going on. And so hypnotherapy is simply the therapeutic use of hypnosis. It's not magic. It's not mystical. It is not mind control. It's really that simple. So it is a clinical intervention that's used appropriately by trained healthcare professionals to help treat medical, behavioral, and psychological concerns. Again, key thing, trained. We all need to be trained in it and certified in it to use it. Just like how I said in the last week that EMDR is not simply moving your eyes back and forth. Hypnotherapy isn't simply closing your eyes and relaxing. It's not. And the hypnosis itself isn't also just the treatment. It's the modality that's used. Um, and hypnosis is a state that allows therapeutic intervention to happen differently than they might happen through just conversations alone about whatever you're coming to therapy for. So, um, one of the ways I explain this to clients is by saying that talk therapy helps us understand what's happening logically. Hypnotherapy can help us experience it differently. So if you're already insightful, you already know what's happening. You already know why you're struggling. You know why your anxiety started, where it started. You understand your childhood memories that shaped your experiences. You understand your relationship patterns, unhealthy ones or healthy ones. And they also know why you shouldn't be hard on yourselves because you have that insight. But despite all that insight that you have, you're still feeling stuck. And that's because insight alone doesn't always change how the nervous system responds. So sometimes your logical brain understands something long before your emotional brain catches up. Hypnotherapy bridges that gap. And I've heard someone say this in this great way, and his episode on the podcast actually is coming in a few months. But Henry Trainer, he's on the podcast that's coming up in a couple of months. He said a great line that our emotions are 3 to 5 years older than our logical memories and our memories that we are able to recall. Because when we're first born, our emotions are the things that help keep us alive and survive. So hypnotherapy gets us in touch with those emotions and that side of ourselves and helps you catch it up. So hypnotherapy is the bridge to the gap between the emotional and logical brain. Just like EMDR is, it's just in a different way. So you might also think that whenever you're in hypnosis, you're in hypnotherapy, that you're going to fall asleep. And no, like you're awake the entire time. It's described as feeling so deeply relaxed. Some can compare it to meditation. Others say it feels like that moment right before you fall asleep when you're aware of what's happening around you, but you're also deeply focused inward. You hear everything that's being said. You know where you are. You can move if you want to. You can open your eyes whenever you choose. In fact, if there is an emergency, you would respond just like you would in any other situation. There are numerous cues, at least in the scripts that I use and my coaches have used that taught me that um, if there are anything around you that you need to respond to, that you can open your eyes and respond. Um, Whenever hypnotherapy is done by a credible person, like they will give you a lot of those safety cues so you know what's going on. Um, so hypnosis does not remove your awareness. It just simply changes where your focus is directed. And I know for me personally, whenever I've done my own hypnosis, um, I was obviously in a deep state of relaxation, but I could still generally hear what was happening around me. I just wasn't tuning into it. It wasn't affecting me. I could still able to be relaxed and everything, and it was just really helpful. So people always think, well, they're gonna make me do something that I want to do. And I think these other people have, and I can understand why. Like you don't want to give up control or be made to do something that you would not want to do. So, and if you've ever seen anything about hypnosis come from like TV or stage performances, it makes sense that you'd be worried about losing control. But clinical hypnosis does not work that way. And even stage hypnosis doesn't really work that way either. And the Now You See Me movies are just coming to mind for this, where there's get someone into a state of hypnosis just by stuffing their fingers, which could be possible. That is a possible thing where you can get into hypnosis with a stuff of fingers, yes. But them getting that person to release the codes to a vault or to say something that they wouldn't actually normally say or want to say, that doesn't actually happen. So whenever you are in hypnosis, you cannot be compelled through suggestion to do something that violates your values, ethics, or your sense of right or wrong. Consent remains important at the entire process. At any point you want to stop, you can. You are fully in control of it with any other session. And if you didn't agree with a suggestion, you wouldn't simply act on it simply because you were hypnotized. You're still you. You have free will. And that's also one of the things I put in my scripts is that you will only accept suggestions that are positive, healthy, and beneficial for you. That is what I taught by my coach. I really agree with that statement. So I incorporate that phrase in my scripts numerous times throughout it. That's what I was taught. That's what I believe. So I will do that the entire time I do hypnosis. And it's one of the things that actually surprises my clients too, whenever we are doing it, of how aware they remain throughout it. And they also just come out of it feeling, oh yeah, like I really like the suggestion. That's what I agree with. And also, I mean, I'll get into this a little bit later too, but hypnosis is very individualized too. It's not a one size fits all script. Like I have specific scripts for each of my clients. Like nothing is standard, nothing is the same. And people always feel like they knew what was happening the entire time. And that's what clinical hypnosis feels like for most people. You're relaxed, you're focused, you're present, and actively participating in your own healing. That's very key. Just like any other therapy, you're an active participant. So why does relaxation matter? So if I'm just relaxed, why not simply meditate? It's a good question. I mean, meditation is really helpful. Totally is. And this is just a part of hypnosis, but it's not the whole picture. So, I mean, sometimes you can do hypnosis just for the sake of relaxation. But whenever you're doing it for therapy, the goal isn't just to relax. The goal is reducing enough outside distraction that your mind can focus on what's happening internally. And when we're overwhelmed by stress, our attention is constantly pulled outward, thinking about work, we're thinking about other responsibilities, arguments we've had in the past, our finances, everything we have to do next rather than being in the moment. And hypnosis creates a space to temporarily quiet those distractions so you can notice the patterns your mind and body have been holding on to. In whatever ways those patterns show up, could be as anxiety, physical tensions, emotional reactions that seem to come out of nowhere. And hypnotherapy just gives us the opportunity to explore those experiences without judgment. You can just really focus and in tune. And that is where the meaningful change begins. Is whenever you can fully just be in it and experience it without judging it and just allow it to be and just allow your body to talk to you. Because so much of my clients are so disconnected from their bodies. So much. So it's a little snapshot of what hypnosis is. So what does it actually help with? And who can be a good candidate for it? So let's get into that piece. Now, hypnotherapy can help with a broad range of concerns. Medical, mental health, physical, so many things. So when people hear hypnosis, they often think of smoking cessation, like stopping smoking, because that's one of the most well-known notices for it. And yes, that's absolutely what it can be used for that. It can be used for supporting behavior changes like quitting smoking or unhealthy habits like overeating, gambling, like a lot of things. But it's only one small picture. And today, hypnotherapy has been researched across a wide variety of medical, psychological, and behavioral concerns. And research supports its use with anxiety, depression, trauma-related conditions, chronic pain like fibromyalgia, sleep difficulties, procedural anxiety, certain medical treatments, weight management, gambling, and much, much more. So much more. Now, that does not mean hypnotherapy is a cure for every problem. It means that hypnosis can be a valuable tool when it is integrated into an appropriate treatment plan and used for someone who understands both hypnosis and the condition is being treated. Both things have to occur. Like, I am a clinical hypnotherapist because I'm a therapist. But in the course that I was in, there was also people that were not therapists, so they can't do what I do because they don't have the training that I have in the mental health field, but they could help with other scenarios. It's also a key thing to remember too. If you're doing clinical hypnosis, it is with a licensed therapist. Hypnosis itself can just be used with anyone that is certified in hypnosis. There's some things to look out for too as well, like depending on what you're looking for. And so one of the things I appreciate most about the research is that it doesn't position hypnosis as something like speech therapy. It is used to enhance therapy, just like with everything else. It is not a be-all, end-all, just like nothing is a be-all, end-all. There's tools in everyone's toolbox. It's helps create another pathway for people to process their experience differently, to heal in a different way that's less scary and more body-focused and inner work focused rather than being so logical all the time, which is what I love too. I love getting up into the body with stuff. So let's give you an example of what this will look like. So look, imagine someone who's totally stressed at work. Every morning they wake up already super anxious, overwhelmed. They spent the whole day guessing themselves, like over every single decision they made. They replay conversations in their head, like, oh my gosh, I should have said this to this person, I should have said that, or what have you. And they can't even relax after work because they're already worried about work the next day. And they've tried positive thinking, they've read the self-help books, they've talked about it in therapy. They know their boss isn't judging them nearly as much as they're judging themselves. Every morning when they wake up, their body already thinks they're in danger. And if you experience any type of anxiety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your logical brain says, I'm okay. But your body says, like, we're not safe. This is not okay. And that's where hypnotherapy can become incredibly helpful. Rather than simply talking about the stress, we guide the nervous system into a deeply relaxed and focused state. And from there, we begin introducing therapeutic suggestions that support safety and confidence building up more calm and more emotional regulation, and also finding the root of that anxiety, figure out where it's coming from, why we can actually still calm, even though you logically know where it is, and like kind of clearing that out too. And over time, those suggestions are reinforced through repetition and practice. Just like everything else, repetition strengthens a skill. Muscle memory is a thing for everything for a reason. And I see new emotional and behavioral responses strengthens new neural pathways. And the goal isn't to erase the stress. The goal is to help your nervous system learn a different response and to know how to better management moving forward and to kind of clear out any negative beliefs too. So people will also think too that hypnosis is a one and done. It's not a one and done. I mean, you can experience a change after one session. You can, but repetition is so important because meaningful change only develops through repetition. And I've been saying this a lot with my clients lately. It's like your negative thoughts, your like negative behaviors that you've been dealing, it's like a 6-lane highway in your brain. So it's well in there. It's well established. You do one pass to build a new road. It is not going to overtake that 6-lane highway. It takes numerous practices. It takes time. So think about it this way. Like if you want to make meaningful changes, it takes repetition and practice. You don't become good at doing anything after one time. It takes numerous times to learn how to drive, to play an instrument, to play a sport. It takes a lot of time to redo these things. And so the therapeutic sessions work similarly because your brain will change what you practice. So whatever you want to attune to, negative or positive, that's what your brain will go to naturally. And every time you rehearse healthier responses, calmer reactions, or more adaptive beliefs, you're strengthening those new pathways. And that's what I tell my clients all the time. It's like, this is not going to happen only during the session. The session will teach your brain a new pathway, but the practice afterwards is what strengthens it. And I will generally give clients a pre-recorded thing that I have for them to do outside of session as well. That is just general relaxation with part of the sessions within it for like what I do with my clients. Every hypnotherapist does things differently. But so that's how it works, right? That's what it does. That's how it's you can use it for. But hypnotherapy is not right for everyone because just because something is evidence-based does not mean it's appropriate for everyone, just like with EMDR, just like with CBT, DBT, anything. It's not right for everyone. Like everyone has their own things that they have to do. So, there are people that are not good candidates are people who are actively experiencing hypnosis, like, it's not hypnosis, psychosis, sorry. Generally are not appropriate candidates for hypnotherapy. And the same can be true for certain severe personality disorders, significant cognitive impairments that interfere with reality testing, and some individuals with complex dissociative disorders. Now, every person will be assessed individually, and then the hypnotherapist will make their own call on that. But generally speaking, especially people that are severely cognitively impaired are not the right people, just because of the way their brains naturally work. It just does not work for them. But another big group of people that it won't work with is people that generally don't want to participate and that don't believe that it will work. Because hypnosis and hypnotherapy isn't something that's done to you. You have to actively participate in it and believe and be willing to do it. Just like with everything else, consent is key. So, like if someone comes into a session determined that it won't work, refuses to engage, or isn't willing to follow the process, hypnosis is likely to be effective and gonna be a waste of time for you and the therapist and everything else. It's similar to physical therapy, similar to anything. Like you can be the best hypnotherapist in the world. I'm not saying I am, because I know I'm not. My coach definitely is way better than I am because she's been doing it longer. But in any case, but if you never do exercises that like you're given, your progress will be limited. And the same principle applies to everything, hypnotherapy or just therapy in general. So something to keep in mind. Um, and one thing that's awesome too that I want to talk about next is actually what happens in the brain because it's just so cool. Like the brain is an amazing thing, and I love it. That's why I do this job, but the brain is just amazing. So, hypnosis has been studied numerous times over numerous decades, like talking a long time. Um, researchers have used neuroimaging technology. The one that I one research article that I recently read was using EEG machines, and it was able to observe changes in brain activity during hypnosis. And one of the findings that comes up is consistently is increased theta waves. And I mean, you obviously probably don't know what those are, but you don't have to worry about memorize brainwave names. Um, but what theta waves are associated with and linked to deep relaxation, focused attention, mental imagery, creativity, and certain types of learning memory. It's kind of like the moments like just before you fall asleep, or when you're completely immersed in visualization or deeply engaged in meditation. And hypnosis shares some characteristics with those states while still allowing you to remain aware and engaged, which is super cool. And researchers have also observed changes in alpha activity in some studies, although the findings there are a little bit more mixed. And the biggest takeaway is like, obviously, don't memorize what brainwaves do what. But the important point is this hypnosis creates measurable changes in brain activity. It isn't simply someone pretending to be relaxed. It's not just imagination. Researchers can actually observe differences in how the brain functions during hypnosis. And so the basic takeaway here is like the more often you can get into those states and get into that learning state and memory state from the theta waves, the more often change can occur, which is why repetition is so important. It's just crazy. And so again, why does this matter? I know I said a little bit, but like learning doesn't happen only through logic. If you ever try to change a habit, you probably experience this and you know exactly what you should do. Yet somehow you keep doing the opposite. That's because habits aren't driven only by conscious thought. They're also driven by automatic patterns your brain has practiced thousands of times over the years. So hypnotherapy creates conditions where those automatic patterns become a little more flexible. Suggestions can then be paired with imagery, emotion, and focus attention to support learning in a different way instead of just talking about the pattern. No, we're not magically rewiring your brain. That's cool, but no, it's not happening. It means it just creates conditions that make learning and behavior change more effective when enforced through continued practice. And that's the important distinction. Like, it's continued practice, and it's a condition where you make the changes. Like, you decide whether or not this is what you want to do. Because even if you're coming to someone for, let's say, weight loss changes, right? Like, you want to lose weight, you're tired of eating sweets, you're tired of doing X, Y, and Z, you want to work out more, whatever. If you're not really ready for those changes, I can give you all the suggestions in the world to do these things and that you'll look better and whatever. Everyone's different for how they want to do this. But if you're not really wanting to do that, it's not going to matter what I say in those moments. But if it is what you want, and we have the suggestions that you want to have incorporated, again, and it's a give and take collaboration piece, um, then it will work as long as you practice and rehearse it. Um, so that's something that's really cool and important too, just to remember. So you're probably wondering, hey, is it cool? I have like these sessions. What was it going to feel like afterwards? Immediately afterwards, actually after you come out of it, you continue to feel relaxed and calm and grounded and maybe a little bit lighter mentally. Um, Sometimes you might feel tired, like you guys are like, there's a really good massage, like that kind of feeling. Or depending on what you're going in for, you could be still feeling really emotional because you just processed something like really meaningful or heavy. And that's part of therapy. That's how it's supposed to be. And the therapy is also allowing your emotions to move rather than keeping them buried, which is probably what happens a lot of times when you say logical, like you're just keeping your emotions buried. If something difficult does come up during a session, that's not something you're expected to handle alone. A trained therapist is there to help you process whatever emerges during the sessions. That's one of the reasons why I always encourage people to seek out someone who's appropriately trained, not just in hypnosis, but in treating the concern they're coming to therapy for. You can't just do it alone. You do need someone there with you. Now, if you are just doing like a relaxation hypnosis, you don't have to have someone there with you because there's nothing that is being triggered to be brought up. It's just like about getting really relaxed in your body. So it's nothing to really um, be too worried about. So one thing that's also really cool before we wrap up with everything else and I get into a little bit about what the flow of an actual session is, um, and we understand where clinical hypnosis came from because I think the history will explain why there's still so many misconceptions today about it. So there have been instances of people answering translate states throughout human history, like from thousands of years ago, going all the way back to pre-biblical times. Like we'll just go with that. So way back when, like people, there have been counts of people entering during translate states, but what has become known as clinical hypnosis today, and like modern clinical hypnosis, what we currently use, really began in 1843 with a Scottish surgeon named James Braid. Um, he's often referred to as the father of modern hypnosis, but before him, there was Franz Anton Mesmer, and you may have heard the word mesmerized before, and that actually comes from his name, which is super cool. Mesmer believed healing occurred through something called magnetism. While his theory itself wasn't supported scientifically, people often did experience real changes during his treatments, and James Braid became interested in those observations. But instead of accepting the theory of magnetism, he asked different questions. So, like, he thought, like, maybe what if the change didn't happen because of the magnetic forces that Mesmer was using? Like, Mesmer was actually using magnets to change things in the body, but what if they were happening because of the focus attention and the suggestion that Mesmer was giving using the magnets? And that is what changed everything from Braid. And Braid started studying hypnosis scientifically. And he coined the term hypnotism and published a book called sorry, it's hard to pronounce. It's Nerphonology. Neurogy. Pnology. Which lays the foundation for modern clinical hypnosis. And as research continued through the late 1800s and in the 20th century, other influential figures came about, including Burnham, Carhart, Freud, Clark Hall, Jung, and they all helped shape our understanding of hypnosis. It's really been used for hundreds of years, and it's been researched heavily ever since then. Um, if you want to get more into research, there's obviously tons of research articles that you can get into. And eventually, both the British Medical Association and the American Medical Association in, say, the mid 1900s, around the 1950s, um, recognized hypnosis as a legitimate therapeutic intervention when practiced by appropriately trained healthcare professionals. So while hypnosis does often get lumped in with entertainment today, actually has a long history within medicine and psychology. And one cool thing is whenever I was getting my certification, we watched a video of a person that was under hypnosis to get varicose vein surgery. So she was still awake and aware while they were actively doing the surgery, and she wasn't feeling the pain, which is super cool. And that's a whole different level of hypnosis than what you need for clinical hypnosis in the psychology sense, but still really cool. Um, and then level of hypnosis needs a lot of training, a lot of prep work. It's not just like a one done thing. It does take a lot for that. But um, so that's just some cool history about why it's not just woo woo or not effective. It's been around for hundreds of years and super cool. So something you're probably wondering now is like, what does this actual session look like? And it's nothing dramatic. It's not like it's not like our lights are dimmed. I mean, they can be if you want them to be, but there's no clock swinging or I mean, some people might use music with their hypnosis, but it's not needed. Um, but as hypnosis therapy session just begins like any other therapy session, you start by talking about your goals, review your history, make sure you're an appropriate fit for hypnotherapy, and that's also where like the consent piece comes from. It's like we talk about it, make sure like you're the right fit, make sure you're um giving it a taste of digestion as well, make sure you get to relaxed states. And you also have the opportunity to ask questions, express concerns, and decide whether that approach is right for you. And for me, it's like hypnotherapy. I love it. I love it to use it. But it's just a tool. In my toolbox, I have other ones that I can use too if hypnosis isn't what someone wants. Now, if people say they don't want it, it's totally fine. We don't have to use it. So once we establish that foundation, we move into the hypnosis portion of the session, which actually sometimes like the talking part about your goals is a session in and of itself. And then come back for another one where we actually do hypnosis, at least for how I have things set up. And each session always starts with you becoming physically comfortable, whether you're seated in a chair, lying down, whatever. Um, and then you are guided through a breathing technique. And I use a lot of different inductions. I sometimes use progressive relaxation where we relax each different part of your body, or imagery to help your attention gradually shift inward. And then after that, we'll do like another more deep inner relaxation piece. And like, you may notice your body feeling heavier or like a really good sense of calm. And like, you might not notice much physically at first. That's okay. It just like calms as the session goes. And uh, everyone's experience is different too. So there's no right or wrong way with how you're experiencing it. Um, so depending on what you're coming in for, we might use guided imagery. We might strengthen, well, I always do try to strengthen internal resources, and we'll work with emotional responses. That's what I do. Everyone's different again. And I and all of the hypnotherapists I know, we'll explore patterns that continue showing up in your life and what we need to change. Or you might simply reinforce healthier ways of responding to stress. And throughout the entire session, you are fully aware. You are listening, you're responding, you're participating. And again, this is something happening to you. We're doing it together to make the changes that you want to have change. In a session, I'll guide you back to your usual level of alertness, and I'll talk about it. See like what stopped for you, what surprised you, what emotions came up, how are you feeling in your body. Um, this all depends. Sometimes you feel deeply relaxed still, sometimes you feel lighter. Sometimes you've gained a new perspective on something that you've been struggling with for years. And like it all depends. And so we'll have to just fill in with that. And just to circle back around to like where we started, stage hypnosis is probably the biggest obstacle that clinical hypnotherapists face because people often assume that the two are the same, but they're really not. Stage hypnosis is designed for entertainment. Clinical hypnosis is designed for healing. Stage hypnotists intentionally look for highly responsive volunteers. Those individuals are participating because they want to have fun. The sessions they're given are intended to entertain an audience. Clinical hypnosis has an entirely different purpose. We're not trying to make someone forget their name. We're not trying to make someone believe that they're on a, well, okay, I was say we're not trying to make someone believe they're not on the beach while they're sitting in office, but that actually is something that we can possibly do when we create your peaceful place. That's a whole other different story. But in clinical hypnosis, we're helping you better understand yourself, helping you better regulate your emotions, helping you reduce your distress in everyday life, and it's build healthier patterns overall. And again, the goal is not to lose control. Say with stage hypnosis, you're not losing control either. But with clinical hypnosis, the biggest goal is to gain more control over automatic emotion responses that have been running the show for years. So just something to circle back around to with as well. Um, and one of the biggest reasons I wanted to make this episode today is one, I am deeply passionate about hypnosis and I love it to death. But one thing I've also noticed over the years as a therapist is that many people come into therapy already incredibly insightful. They've read the books, they've listened to podcasts, they understand trauma, they know why they react the way they do, they understand their attachment patterns, they know they're trying to shape them. They've been in therapy for years, and yet they still feel anxious. They still shut down during conflict. They still find themselves in the same unhealthy relationships. They still feel stuck. If you experience that, I want you know something. I've said this before in numerous episodes too, if you've been following the podcast along. But there isn't anything wrong with you, and insight is very valuable. And understanding story matters. But understanding isn't always enough to create the change. And healing often requires more information. It requires experience. And sometimes your nervous system needs to learn something the logical brain has known for years. To like, even just getting someone that has never been able to relax in years to relax, like just doing a straight relaxation session, does so much healing than just talking about things to help you relax. So it's also something to remember too. Sometimes your body also needs an opportunity to experience that safety rather than simply think about safety, just like I just said. And sometimes emotions need to be processed and fully experienced rather than just analyzed. And that's also why I love hypnotherapy so much is because like you're able to experience these things in a controlled and contained way. And again, it's nothing magical, it's not a shortcut. It is not a place for good therapy. It's just a tool to help your brain and your body work together again, like it's meant to. So, some final thoughts that I hope that you guys can take away from this is, again, I don't see hypnotherapy as a replacement for traditional psychotherapy. It is another evidence-informed tool that can help people access part of themselves that aren't always available through conversation alone. And I love it. I love it for my own healing journey. I love using it with my clients. And it's just been an amazing thing. But again, meaningful and lasting healing often requires engaging the mind, body, emotions, and for those that who value spirituality, the soul as well. Um, Everything works together. I say that all the time with my clients and in the podcast that if you guys have been following around. If you guys are interested in learning more, I also linked my recent Brain Magazine article in the description below where I go into even more detail about the history, the research, and the science behind clinical hypnosis. And if there are other mental health topics that you'd like me to cover in future solo episodes, let me know in the comments. I always enjoy hearing what you're curious about. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week on the Lunar Counseling Podcast. Thank you all for taking your time to listen to today's episode. If today's conversation resonated with you and looking for support on your own healing journey, I'm Kiara Brown, LPC, EMDR certified therapist, certified hypnotherapist, and the owner of Lunar Counseling. I provide virtual therapy for adults in Pennsylvania, Vermont, Florida, and South Carolina, specializing in trauma, anxiety, EMDR, hypnotherapy, and therapy intensives. You can learn more at my website, lunar-counseling.com, or schedule a consultation through the link below. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode next Friday. Don't forget, if you want to stay in the know of when the next episode is live, hit the subscribe or follow button down below, and you'll be notified when the new episode goes live in your time zone.